Hello, everybody. Today we are doing a very short review on factoring, always known by me as double bubble. So just a friendly reminder, double bubble is what we need to be so excellent at and comes up all the time as we go through our stuff here. We are looking at factoring trinomials, looking for the GCF, greatest common factor. We're going to review factor by grouping. And then, of course, we want to be able to use our calculator to verify correct factorizations if we can. And, of course, how do you do that? In Y1, you would write in the original expression. And then in Y2, you're going to put in your bubbles. And what should you see? That's right, you should see the same graph when you graph those. So they should be graphed one on top of the other, and that's like 90% of math is transforming things from one form into an equivalent form. And this is a great skill to remember that you can do in your calculators. You have punchline 13.17 and 13.18 for homework tonight, or for practice. This is going to be practice only. There's not a ton of work to show for most of these, but you do need to practice, but you don't need to turn it in. So this one, you do not have to upload. You do not have to upload this one to Synergy today. It is for practice only, so make sure that you do your practice. It's really important that you take your time to practice. And of course, these are great worksheets because they have the answers sort of embedded within the worksheet, which is something I'm going to try to do if we are forever in this social distancing realm. So real fast, let's do a little bit of factoring. So factor completely, example 1. And remember that the nice thing about a video is it's free from distraction. There's nothing else going on in the background. I'm not having side conversations with students. So things are going to go pretty quickly. Feel free to pause the video and write down the examples. You do need to take notes. It is important. By the end of the year, your notebook for your math notes is going to be like a book. And it has everything you need in a nice, concise way with lots of practice, and it's easy to access. So please make sure you're taking notes just like we did last year. You've got example 1 and factor completely. Of course, the title and date is always a good thing to do as well. Factor completely means that you always want to look for the greatest common factor first. That's rule number 1. And once you look for a greatest common factor, then you can try to double bubble or factor by grouping or some other patterns that we will look at tomorrow. So here on my first one, we have a to the 4th plus 7a cubed minus 30a squared. And I see that I have a trinomial, 3 terms, and I can see that they all have an a. And not just one a, but we can take out a squared, the lowest possible thing they have in common. I can take out 2 from each of these. And if I undistribute a squared, that's going to leave behind a squared, 7, a to the 1st now, minus 30. And then you always, can double check to make sure you did that correctly by just redistributing. That's all we're doing. A squared times a squared is a to the 4th. A squared times a to the 1st, same base, add your exponents. That's where the 3 comes from. So always a good idea to double check by distributing. And from here, we're going to go ahead, leaving the a squared out in front. It doesn't disappear. It's just relocated. First times first has to be the first thing. And we know that a times a would give me a squared. And then last times last has to be the last thing. Negative 30. What times what is negative 30? Let's see. Negative 3 times 10. Oh, look at that. That's a great one. Negative 3 and a positive 10. And how do you know you did it right? Please, please, please remember to check the rainbow. A times 10 is 10A, and -3 times A is -3A. And when we add those together, that's where this 7A comes from. So this is completely factored. There we go. Letter B here, I'm looking and I notice that I've got some greatest common factor first. Definitely want to look for that. I see lots of X's here. It looks like I can take out an X from each term. And it's definitely got some Y's in common too. I see they each have a Y. I can't take Y cubed out of every single term, but I can take a Y to the first out of every single term. I also want to look at my numbers. The 2 and the 19 and the 24 do not have any common factors, so I cannot do anything with the numbers. But I'm going to undistribute my X and a Y. That's going to leave behind a 2y squared. And again, if I just wanted to double check, 2 times x gives me the 2x, and y times y squared gives me the y cubed. Plus a 19. My x is out here. One of my y's is gone. Y times y is y squared. Plus 24, and my x and my y are gone. Guess I didn't need to make my parentheses quite so big. And now from here, I'm going to bring my x and my y down and try and double bubble my trinomial. Factor, factor, factor. First times first has to be my 2y squared. 2y times y is 2y squared. And then last times last has to be my last term, my 24. What times what is 24? And of course we have lots of choices here. I'm trying to fashion a 19, but it's not going to come from the factors of 24. It's going to come from my rainbow. So we need to think about the rainbow here. But maybe I can write down some things. We know 12 times 2, 8 times 3. I have a winner. So what I'm doing is I'm using my fingers. I'm pointing. What I'm doing is I'm using my fingers to help me say I have to multiply 8 times 2. 8 times 2 would get me 16, and 3 more would give me the 19. So my 8 times my 2, that's my outer product here. 8 times 2 gives me 16y. And then my inner product, 3 times y is 3y. 3y and 16y is how we get that 19y. So I know that I did it perfectly. Don't forget the rainbow, really important. All right, let's see what we've got on the letter C here. 9, 11, and 2. Nothing in common there. But I notice a squared, uh-oh, I have a typo. That's supposed to be a big B. A squared with an a cubed and an a to the fourth. So I can definitely take out a squared from each of those. And then when I look, I cannot take out the b. This one does not have a b. So I can't take out a b from each term. That's all I can do right there. So we have 9a squared. And again, if I multiply these together, that's going to give me 9a to the fourth. Plus 11. Two of my a's are gone. So I have an a to the first left over times the b. And then I have my 2. My a squareds are gone. B squared. Great. This is interesting with this 11ab here, but that's okay. We'll watch what happens when we double bubble. So again, we want to think first times first has to be the first term. What times what is 9a squared? You can think 3a times 3a. That's usually a good choice. But I'm actually noticing right off the bat that 9 plus 2 gives me 11. So I'm actually going to keep it 9a times a is 9a squared. And then last times last has to be the last thing, 2b squared. I don't want the 2 over here because that would multiply with my 9. So I want the 2b on the inside times the b. So positive 2b and positive b. I'm going to double check my rainbow here. 9a times b is 9ab. 2b times a is 2ab. And 9a and 2a is 11ab. 9AB, and 2AB is 11ABs. So there we go. And that is perfectly factored completely. Oh, look at here. Factor, 4 terms. Factor by grouping, ladies and gentlemen. When you have 4 terms, or rather 6 terms, or 8 terms, or 10 terms, any even number of terms, factor by grouping can work for you. And what we were going to do then is we look to basically take the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of the first 2 terms, greatest common factor of the last 2 terms. So I'm going to see here, 32 and 80. Oh man. 16. They're both divisible by 16. So I can take out a 16. And I see we have x cubed and x squared, so I can take out x squared. And that's going to leave behind 16 times 2x would give me 32x cubed. And 16 times 5 gives me 80x squared. So there we go. There's that. And back here, the 2x and the 5 don't have any common factors, but they both have a -1. We always want to take something out, whether it's even if it's just a +1 or a -1. It's really important to do that. When I take out that negative, I'm left with a positive 2x and a positive 5. And now we see we have this common factor, again, of 2x plus 5. There's only one common factor. 2 don't come out, just the 1. We're left with 16x squared minus 1. This is difference of squares, so it's going to factor even further. I'm going to bring down my 2x plus 5, and 4x times 4x would give me 16x squared. Positive 1 and -1 gives me my -1. So this is completely factored. And this is really the only one I could check on my calculators just to verify. I'm going to go to y1. I'm going to type in the original here, 32x cubed plus 80x squared minus 2x minus 5. And then I'm going to type in my answer. So my original and my answer. So 2x plus 5 times 4x plus 1 times 4x minus 1. So while I've got that in there, I'm going to just do a zoom standard and hopefully I can see something. I haven't tested this. Oh yeah, that's a lovely looking graph. And something is being graphed right on top. Very good. So they are graphed right on top of each other. I don't need really any more verification than that. So we did it right. That's perfect. Please, ladies and gentlemen, remember that checking your work is really, really important. And on the AP test, it's going to be really helpful if you have your calculator and you can verify a few things, especially if you forget something. So make sure you're using your calculator every day to help you out. We will use it a lot. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please look to your Unit 1 grid and get that punchline 13.17 and 13.18 for practice. Have a great day.